Welcome to The Flip Side, a GYTO podcast where we break down, share, and challenge flip perspectives and insights on different hot topics in education. I'm excited to be back in the studio for another episode with Wade and Chris. And on today's episode, I am very excited about this one. If you've ever heard us talk about once upon a time, we had an administrator who was the best administrator that we ever worked for. Well, he's
You
here
mean
today.
literally every time that you talk about your
Literally,
experience?
he probably makes his way into a weekly conversation,
Literally.
if not sometimes daily. But he is here today, the amazing Dr. Kevin Black. I will never refer to him anything other than Dr. Black.
I don't either.
The one and only.
I will be at whatever age. He will always be Dr. Black to me.
And I only met Dr. Black, I think, one or two times. And I feel like I was in his school. I'll talk about him. I feel like I was an employee down the hall. I was just there.
I mean, he's done so many different things, had worn so many hats in the work of education, and he's always our go-to when we're seeking advice. He joined us for some of our Indiana collaboration sites when we were looking at district transformation. He's a transformative leader. Like, that is just the bottom line. He'll hate that I'm saying all of this about him, but we are so excited for him to join us today for, I think, a very needed topic. It's a hot topic, but it's needed. And it's all about the principal's office, essentially calling your administration too soon or too late. What does that look like? And I'm not even going to get into why we chose this episode. We'll get into it with Dr. Black, but let's dive into the flip side.
Another day, another episode. We are back here. I love how Hope always introduces us in the episode. We have yet to have one where the three of us have not been here, but Hope is, Chris and Wade are still here. So that is good. That is nice. I forget to do that every time, but they are also here on the ones that I intro. They are still here. We haven't got anywhere yet. But today, first of all, I want you to grab your phones. Everyone have their phone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Wade, are you sitting? Okay, there we go.
Oh, no.
So everyone,
don't ask me about
okay,
that.
I want you to open up your text, like start a new text message, okay? And I want you to click on the emoji, and you're gonna have to tell me your top 5.
What am I doing?
Click on you're gonna send an emoji. Do you know how to do that?
Yeah.
Do you send emojis?
Am I sending you a text or?
No. You're just gonna look at your most frequently used emojis
It would
in
be
your
that
phone.
first column.
And it'll be, correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
That first going down.
Frequently used.
Frequently used, yeah.
Yeah.
That first one there, okay? And you have to be honest, what emojis are your most frequently used, okay? This could get dangerous. You never know. Okay, here we go. Let's see, okay? Who wants to go first? Oh, jeez.
I'll go first.
Okay,
I'll go.
Hope's face telling me that there may
I
be
really have a good one that is going to lead to a lot of
wanna go?
You're going to have to
curiosity.
explain it. Okay, curiosity.
Probably won't explain it, actually.
Okay, you don't need to. You don't need to.
Okay.
It could be a private.
I'll do my first 5. I feel like it explains my life right now.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I have the rolling, like crying, laughing emoji
Okay, I know exactly the one.
because I use it. And I don't, now you have to understand too, when I send emojis, I don't just send one, I send rows of them.
Is it the one you do? Is it the one with the face tilted or
Tilted.
straight on? Yeah, you're the
Rolling
tilted.
laughing.
You're the
Rolling
tilted one.
laughing,
Okay. Oh, that's rolling laughing. Got it.
Then
Okay.
I have a snake
Okay.
emoji.
What is that?
I don't think that one was sent to me. So I don't-
Sometimes people are snaky.
Oh,
and
okay,
the only
okay.
way to describe them
Interesting.
is
Oh,
snake.
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You know?
Is it the green snake?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I do.
The green-
It's the one that Taylor Swift or Kim Kardashian's feed was flooded with when she was a snake.
The snake. Oh, okay.
Because of the Reputation album.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe that's why I was using it. We'll just go with that.
We'll go with that.
Safer that way. Then the other one is the eye rolling, like, oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind.
Okay.
Yep. Always use that one. The next one is the heart eyes. And the last one is melting. Like something is overwhelming to me. Or I'm like, oh,
And
it's always the melting.
correct. That was all 5.
Yeah. That was
Okay. Wade
Okay. Mine is the laughing. Crying.
with the tilt. Same one as Hope. Use the same one.
We're happy
A
people.
little help. Yeah. Tilt a little
Okay,
bit.
that one.
Yeah.
And, I have the pray hands.
Okay. I actually heard this was not where this was going. I actually heard that if you look up the emojis, the prayer hands are actually high five, not prayer hands.
Oh.
And if you look
Today
at
years
it,
old.
it kind of does.
Today
make sense.
years old.
It's too
It
high.
does.
Someone did that on TikTok, and I was
never look at
kind
it
of blown away because I've always done this prayer
So if
hands.
somebody sends Wade a text that's like, hey, my family's really going through a hard time. High five.
I don't know. That's what I saw on TikTok, but
I'll never see it the same.
The validity of that,
I feel like the blue sleeves were like the hands.
That's what I thought too. I thought that too. I feel like they would change it. Okay.
Next one is the muscle thing.
Wow. To the boys.
Yeah, to the BJJ
to the boys. Next one is this one, probably to the BJJ boy.
Rock up.
Oh,
Because
here's our
these
very
are
unique
on
dance.
brand.
Yeah,
These are
they
on
really
brand.
are.
And then the last one is prayer hands.
Okay.
Praise hands.
Praise hands. Yeah. Okay.
Now those are so you. Like
those are very you. Okay.
Wow, that is crazy how mine are so me and yours are so you.
Okay. Here are mine frequently used. Mine is the crying with the hands up like this, like actually crying.
Wait, there's that?
Like sad.
Like sad.
Like crying tears one.
Really? What is
that's
that?
mostly it's the one with it's just crying.
It's a human?
No. It's a smiley face.
It's a smiley face?
2 hands up. I can send it to you. Here you go.
Yeah, I want to see it.
Okay, here you go.
Okay.
I'll show you it right now.
I mean, that's not hands up.
What are those?
Those are
tears.
tears.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Well,
we're
that's
learning
it. Okay,
so
the one with
much
the tears.
about emojis today. Guys, that is definitely.
Okay, those are tears coming down. I thought, I get it now. I see it now. But regardless,
It
it's
could
the
be
same.
sad or I don't think
It's the same
crying.
emotion. Mine is like emotional. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably
Keep it
to my
very
circuit. Yeah, that's that one. Okay.
Great.
The next one is the upside down smiley face emoji. I use that all the
What
time.
does that actually mean?
It's just like a. Like it's no real. I use it all the time, and it's like
Okay.
I'm sitting here minding my own business, kind of. That's how I use it. There.
You're like, is that like the Kermit tipping this or sipping the tea?
Kind of, yeah. It's just like
I'm not
upside
business.
down smiley. Yeah, I use it all the time. The next one is melting. I use that all the time. The melting one. Confetti, which is not a
We
surprise
love some
to
confetti.
anyone. Confetti vibes all the time, and then
You send it with confetti, like
no, you did that for the first time.
I know.
and I loved it.
I know.
I saw
it's
that
so
the
cool.
other
You
day. That
hold
was
it
amazing.
down, and
How do you do that? You hold it down.
Like
Oh, okay.
Or word or yeah.
Yeah. Also,
And it sends-
Maverick and I just learned this. If you FaceTime and do different like hand signals, there's like confetti and balloons and all these things. that you can
Highly
do.
interactive.
Yeah, and the last one is dead, like the skeleton. That's how these were like dead.
That used to
at
be a
that.
very popular one.
Yeah.
Now it's not even in
That
my
is a
top
popular
25.
one for me. But
Yeah.
let us know on social. Send us your top 5 emojis. That could have been spicy. So those are pretty PG, but
spicy.
you never know what that looks like. Chase is sending me that the prayer one is there. Well, blame TikTok of that one, but I saw it means high five.
The prayer does mean prayer.
He searched prayer and
Because I don't want to be
shows
sending
up.
somebody high five if I'm like saying
I don't know. I saw it on TikTok. You never know what that happens.
Hey, from
but-
now on,
Liars.
we're gonna send it.
Exactly. There's a whole thing about it. It's like the science of emojis. Look it up, okay? But we're gonna dive in with Dr. Black. Here we go. The one, the only, Dr. Kevin Black is here with us.
I don't think he realizes how famous he is.
I don't think he does either. Poor Dr. Black.
about him.
I don't know if you heard Dr. Black in the intro. I said I feel like I've been an employee of yours by the amount of times Hope and Wade talk about you and the impact you've had on them. So thank you for them because I'm sure they've said it. But I feel like I was right on payroll and staff, so that's great of all the stories that I've heard. But Dr. Black, before we dive into today's topic, which is all about calling admin too soon or too late, go ahead and introduce yourself to all the listeners, teachers, leaders. Tell them a little about your background in education and about you.
Okay.
How you
Well,
were an amazing collegiate athlete. He was a superstar, quarterback.
I was very relaxed and excited about this. Now my heart is beating. I feel like I've got to live up to some kind of something that I'm not.
You're already there. You already live there.
So that's pretty tough. No, grew up in Northeast Georgia. Son of 2 educators. My dad was a high school coach, and then he became a principal, elementary school principal. My mom taught all her career. And so it was just one of those things I wanted. But when I went to college, I went to Newberry College and decided I was on a football academic scholarship and decided I was going to teach. I was going into engineering because math just came easy to me. And so I was going to engineer, and probably about halfway through, I really feel like I was called in education. I feel like it was a calling. And, I've heard a lot of people say if, education, preaching, if you don't feel like you're called into it, then you're in the wrong area. Don't just say, well, this is my fallback.
Right.
If this isn't your primary, then do something else. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means this just isn't for you.
And for you.
And so anyway, I felt called into that, and I taught and coached for a while. I was going to be I'm going to be a head football coach, athletic director, wanted to do that. And about halfway through my 6th year of teaching, we had an assistant principal retire. And one of the assistant principals came to me, Miss Beth Pinson came to me and said, hey, I think you'd be a great assistant principal. I said, I appreciate that, but that's not what I'm going to do. And she's like, well, what if I write your application and get this out? Will you go interview? And I was like, okay, I'll go interview. And so I go interview, and I kind of look around and see who else is interviewing. I found out the list, and I was like, now that competitive side of me starts kicking in a little bit. And also I wanted what was best for our school. And so I did that, and then went ahead and got my certification. And then I was assistant principal for about 4 or 5 years, got moved to principal job, did that for about 18 in the Greenwood area and then in the Pendleton, Anderson area, and finished up my 28 years, had opportunity to do something else just to try and see if that's what I want to do. And actually now I kind of get to see more people. I work with a lot of coaches, a lot of principals, talk to them on a regular basis, eat lunch with them, just talk. And so I'm in sporting goods now. So actually 7 years in BSN sports. It's been good. And so just a little different, but I'm still I'm still eating lunch probably 3 or 4 days a week with a group of teachers, coaches, principals, administrators. And so it's been good just to stay, involved.
Be at those lunches.
In my background.
Let me be at those lunches.
Yeah.
I love it. Now, we'll dive into today's topic, of course, but I want the real tea on Hope and Wade in their classrooms. I don't want the good things, the accolades. No one cares about that right now. But give us like an embarrassing story,
I got some
or just give me anything you can think of.
You may tell you when Hope was in my office was crying.
Yes, tell us that.
That did really happen. That's not
Let's go into that one.
That's not a lie.
Don't hold back. Give us the
How
juice.
about when Wade takes all the desk out from his kids?
Yes.
I'm talking to all these parents about how their kids don't have desks in their rooms. You want to go into that?
Yeah, keep going. Yeah, let's go on those lists.
But you
Yeah.
know who had my back? Dr. Black had my back.
Sure did.
Of
He
course.
told him he had to fix it. It wasn't, but Dr. Black had it back.
Why was Hope crying? Hope, why were you crying? Do you
That's
remember?
the next episode.
Oh, okay.
That's
We'll leave
the
on a
tease for
cliffhanger.
the next episode.
We'll leave on a
See, we just
cliffhanger.
kinda
Oh,
leave
I
that
love
there.
a
We should
teaser.
do that at the end. We should have done that at the end.
Yeah, you're right.
And
You're
then you
right.
say, come
Yeah,
back.
come
That
back.
would be such a good story because that was one of my biggest moments of personal development.
She
was
talks about it all the
because-
time.
I talk about it all the
in
time.
front of every educator.
And I think it's we'll save it for another episode.
No, we're not going to save it for another episode. Here's what we're going to do. After this episode is over, we're going to do an extra feature if you're watching on YouTube where we talk about that story. So we won't take the time now, but if you want to hear that story about Hope crying, I'm just going to elaborate a little. In the fetal position under Dr. Black's desk in her...
With embellishment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're gonna recreate it here. So we're gonna get a desk in
You heard
here.
it here
We're gonna recreate it right after this. But
You heard
seriously,
it here
on the
first.
YouTube episode, if you stick around to the end, we have some extra features sometimes. So we'll do that. After
would
this
actually
episode.
be so
Stick
fun.
around to the
I would love to
end.
live
I will be playing the role of Dr. Kevin Black in this as we get there. But today's episode is all about calling admin too soon or too late. And I know this episode might ruffle a few feathers of some teachers because as a teacher, as a leader, we have all heard this many times of, oh my gosh, I call admin and nothing happens, or I call admin in this, or this student is doing this. And it's a very kind of first line of defense as the administrator is to solve all of what's going to happen. So we want to kind of unpack that when calling administration for a student or behavior in the classroom. When is it appropriate? When is it not? Is it happening too soon in the school year, in the day with students? Or is it kind of something that's happening too late as we've waited for too long to address the problem and what that looks like? So first, Dr. Black, I want you to just kind of lead us into what did this look like for you as an administrator in your school, whether assistant principal, in terms of teachers calling you for support or their leadership team for support. What did that look like for you on your campus?
Well, I was very fortunate. I always worked around a good team. And so had strong instructional leadership, strong assistant principals. And so that helped a lot with me. So a lot, especially later, I felt like a good bit of it, if there's a lot of discipline coming, then most of the time we would start with our instructional coach because we felt like there were some procedural issues probably in the classroom. Like, so if you just need to find out where are the issues coming from, where they step, and let's say, what's your procedure for that? Okay. Kid comes to school, class late, comes in and disrupt. What's your procedure if a child comes to your class late? What do you have in place? And so whatever it was, if I need to sharpen my pencil, or well, probably not a pencil anymore, but I'm just saying if I need to, my Chromebook's dying or my whatever, what's your procedure for that in class? And so a lot of times it stems out of that and so, all right, I can narrow it down to starting to happen at this time. So, okay, well, let's work on this. Let's try to figure out how can we put this in place And so that was the biggest thing. I really feel like, and I feel like this as a teacher too, I feel like every time I had to write a referral,
I know exactly what you're going to say because I remember this.
I'm giving it away.
Yep.
I'm giving my power away. Okay. I want to keep as much as I can. There's some things that I have to give away. You know, if there's a fight or if somebody's got a weapon or there's some harassment or something going on, you know, something that could probably even be law enforcement could be involved with. Yeah, that needs to immediately go.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I mean, I feel like I don't want to get, because if you give me as the administrator all your power, well, then now guess who the kid's going to start answering to? Well, I don't answer to him or her. I don't answer to him. So I don't have to, I'll keep getting sent there.
Yeah.
And so
Let's unpack that a little bit of give that power kind of analogy of the first time that you're calling your leadership for, let's say, a student disruptive. And we talked a lot on this podcast about classroom management being a pain point for teachers. Their first time would say, well, if you could have this ideal environment for your students, what would you fix? What would you want to do? Every time classroom management is number one.
Number one thing right now.
It's
What's
that
your biggest
mindset
pain point?
of
What's
classroom
your biggest
management.
holdback? What's keeping your kids from being
Well, really not even classroom management, it's behavior.
Behaviors.
And then putting it onto the students and that
It's no longer
mindset.
called classroom management.
It's called student behaviors. What do the
They
students
say.
do that's holding me up from this? But I want to talk about that kind of power and transferring that. So what do you think teachers could do to kind of keep that power, maybe from the beginning of the school year, if there's a difficult student that is interrupting class or they have challenges that they're working through as a student, let's say elementary school, for example, where we see a lot of these teachers kind of first saying that this is happening. What does that power look like in relation to them in their classroom? And then where does that transfer of power fall when they pick up the phone and call administration for maybe just being disruptive? And I don't want to say just because there's different scenarios, obviously, but it's something that could be handled in the classroom, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I've heard several if there's power in the present, there's hope in the future. Okay. So if I feel like I've got power over a situation, then I feel pretty good about it. But once because I just listened, you just said it's student behavior. That's not me.
Right.
I don't have control. You know, that's not me. That's student behavior.
Yeah.
And so that's, you know, I don't have as much control over student behavior. So to me, that takes a little bit of my power away. Now, I don't know if I would want to phrase it that way.
Right.
You know, classroom management, I got control over that.
Correct.
But if it becomes student behavior, okay, there's not as much power. I don't have the hope. I kind of forget while I'm doing this whole thing. So, I mean, I would start there.
I want to stop there for a second before you go further, because I think what you just said
Is what everyone needs to hear. Yeah.
needs to sit for a moment in this space of, in this day of education, is why are we starting to hear more student behavior? It's because, like you just said, classroom management, we have to assume responsibility for. What we're doing is we are shifting
Projecting.
and projecting everything to student behavior, which then turns
can't be me.
into,
It can't
be me, because it's how they're being parent. It's the parents' issue. It's how they're parenting. And I think that what it's become is, and the reason we're seeing, there's many reasons why we're seeing an increase in student behaviors, but we're giving up power by saying, oh, it's a student issue, not a me issue.
Yeah.
And so now I also want to go back to, because how do we make shifts? And I want to revisit what you just talked about earlier with
Procedures.
procedures
Yep, me too.
and expectations, because, you know, a lot of times when I'm going into classrooms with high student behaviors, right, there isn't clear expectations. There isn't clear procedure. So when a student comes in late, it looks different every day. So I want you to kind of talk about that in your school, in the schools that you have worked in. Have you seen it to be more successful with school-wide structures, systems, procedures, classroom specific? What have you seen from, because you've worked with a lot of educators, a lot of successful and a lot of maybe some who weren't as successful. What did you notice about teachers who were successful when it came to classroom management, student behaviors, when it came to their rules, procedures, systems in their classrooms?
Probably the thing that was the most, I would say, a common thread amongst them all were I found teachers that were always, I want to get better. How can I get better? How can I improve my craft? How can I improve what I'm doing? Not, once you become ripe, you start to rot. Okay. So you never want to stop growing, because once you stop growing, and so it's those people that realize, okay, it's still procedures, but maybe it's a little different than how I did it 10 years ago. COVID may have shifted some things, and so maybe I have to change it a little bit, but I still can be in control of that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest thread I was saying is just how can I get better? How can I know I'm struggling here, okay, so I need to get better here. Who's good at this?
Yeah.
unfortunately, and I'll say this from an admin, sometimes we don't do a good job of assigning student teachers to the right people.
Correct.
I want to learn from the best.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I want to learn how to make a rocket, I want to learn somebody that's really good at making a rocket. Correct. Somebody that has no clue about how to make a rocket.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I think if you walk in that, you already come in with a lot of confidence in how to handle those situations because you've watched it. In fact, you may not have seen a whole lot of discipline issues in some of because everything was so, it was like, well, that teacher, she had good kids.
It was natural and tight. Yeah.
You need to go watch those kids go into the next door class. You're going to realize.
That is exactly right. That is exactly right.
If you see these same children in another classroom, you realize, okay, what is she doing?
Yeah.
That he's not, that they're not doing, whoever.
Right.
You know, and so that, to me, that's the biggest thing. It's just those that want to get better, want to learn. Okay, I know I need help here. Who's doing a great job with it?
Yeah. So because I'm curious about this too, from a leader's perspective. And again, I always call you a transformative leader because I think that you have never stepped into a building and it's remained the same. You stepped into a building and it's gotten better. And I know you credit that to working with some amazing teams. Thank you very much. I was on. I'm kidding. Oh, I know that you credit that to working with amazing teams, but your team is only as amazing as the leader leads.
Correct.
And so we have a lot of teachers listening, and we've kind of talked about, again, kind of taking back that power, having strong systems in place that are consistent, and that leads to, student outcomes. For leaders who are listening to this, and, right now, it's no secret that there is a teacher shortage in this nation. You have teachers in classrooms who aren't certified to teach. They haven't even done student teaching. They haven't gone through how to manage classroom behaviors, but even some veteran teachers who are, the minute that a kid walks in and says something that they disagree with or even speaks a little too, they're gone to the principal's office, right? We are in some schools where literally, because now, the walkie-talkies, so you have the walkie-talkies in school, those still remain, they're constantly
Going off.
Every second of every day, those walkie-talkies are going off with classroom management issues. And this is a common thread. It's not just one school. Where do we start? Where do we start in buildings who might be high emergency certification? So again, you have a lot of inexperienced teachers, but leaders can't lead because they're constantly putting out fires. Where do we start as leaders from a leader perspective?
Well, I think back, would you rather have, and I go back and forth, went for a while, would you rather have somebody who is a content specialist or somebody who can really handle the classroom? If you had to level it on there. And then, of course, as you get into high school classrooms, if you're teaching AB calculus, I better have somebody that's a content specialist.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
But in middle school, in elementary school, it's important, but I would rather have somebody that has a better, because, if you're just a content specialist, you have no control of your classroom, it really doesn't matter what.
You can't do the teaching anyway.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Matter. I mean, even if the people are quiet. I mean, I think of about, my daughter was really quiet and reserved, and if somebody was disrupting in that classroom, she didn't learn well.
Right.
Okay. And so she would struggle in a classroom that was a little chaotic.
Yeah.
She needed some calm space. And so even though she wasn't a problem, she was having trouble learning. She would have trouble learning some environments.
Yeah.
So you're talking about all of them. So really, I mean, I think it starts with procedures. I really do. I think it's getting in good classroom procedures. Here's how we do things. Here's how we're going to walk into the classroom. When we first walk in, this is what we do. This is how we start. This is how we move from one activity to another. This is how we walk down the hall. This is how we eat lunch. Whatever it is, I really still like having those in place. And having, whether it's a mentor, you've got to have somebody in that building that's strong. All right, listen, I know why you're here, and we all want to make this look better, okay?
Correct.
So I need you to help him. He's struggling right now with this, okay? And after we've had that conversation of, okay, tell me how this went.
Yeah.
Where did you see the problem take place? All right, how do you think you could have done a little differently there? It's asking those right questions and saying, drawing them to, I guess it started here. Okay, well, how do you, I don't really know. I said, well, I know who can help you with that.
Yeah.
Let's do.
I know who can help
get
you with that.
better.
Yeah.
Let's get better, because I'm not the specialist in that, and I knew I wasn't.
Yeah.
But I knew we had people in the building that were, and so it's matching those people up and having that where they can connect and don't feel threatened. Because sometimes you go in there and they might feel threatened when I walk in the door. That's my principal. I'm going to do it because he says I want to do it. No, let's do it because it's the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing.
If I can get somebody else to buy into it, and you got to have a building that is okay to help others.
Yeah.
You have to have that.
Yeah.
And that
or at
takes
least
time
find the
sometimes,
individual.
yeah.
Because we're all focused on, I got my time. Why am I wanting to go down here? And this person? I got a plan. I got to do whatever else.
Yeah.
But when those kids come from that classroom and they're unruly coming to mine, it really helps you overall. It helps us all as a school.
Right.
Keeps our kids in school learning, not at home and all. I mean, we need to be
Your school teachers. That's school teachers. We're on the same team. I mean,
That's right.
Gosh darn it. I forgot what I was going to say, because one thing that, this is it. One thing that you were very, very good at, you came from the district office to Pendleton Elementary School the same year I came to Pendleton Elementary School. No background in elementary school.
I had to fight to get y'all two together because they weren't.
I was wondering about
a husband and wife team being together. And I understand that. There could be issues.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I thought.
I've been at school where there have been issues with that. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought it was going to be harder when we were just dating and we were there before you, and then went to town. But anyway, you were very good at just being open and honest of things that you knew and things that you were like, no, I don't really know a lot lot about this.
That
but I know
created
this person
such a
did.
respect.
But it also allowed us the freedom to feel open and be like, no, I don't know what the heck's going on here. Like,
I know
you like
I'm good
that.
at this and I'm not good at this. Yeah.
Allowed us to be able to do that. So I think that's great advice for any leader that's out there. And that's something that I've taken my whole life of, it's okay if you don't know, but you can still be effective.
But I think that too, what I've heard you talk about here and what I've seen in action and working under you is you're very much like, and I talk to educators about this a lot. Education is a science. Well, to operate as a science, right? You're operating on, okay, what is the problem? What am I noticing as patterns or trends? And what am I going to try to do to solve that problem? And that's exactly what you're talking about. I think a lot of times as leaders, they get so caught up in, okay, let me put this fire out, this fire. If you have a student that is coming to your office every day of every week, and we are not identifying a pattern of why, you're never going to get that student out of your office. And I think that's what you are so good at as a leader is, okay, they're in my office. I've got to help this teacher. I've got to help this team find the why. Why? And it can't just be because you dislike them or they're talking. No, we've got to get to the root of the problem, because once you know the root, then you can start implementing possible solutions. But so many times we're just sending kids, or what I'm seeing a lot of is sending kids to the office. They sit there, there's no solution, and we wonder why that continues day after day after day after day. And so, and also it's not the administrator's job to have a solution for that child in that circumstance. It would be like the administrator's job if there was something that did require a referral or did require something higher level, that's in there. But I think teachers often assume that I'm going to call my administrator, I'm going to send them to them, they're going to fix the problem and send the student back. That is never going to happen. Having any kind of
that is never going to happen. And often students feel comfort in the administrator's office because it's a one-on-one environment. They're doing those either calm down techniques or they're talking through the problem. They're doing a solutions-based kind of conversation that they would have done if they were in the classroom that they're now applying there. They're sending them back. They're ready to go. That teacher, that just like Dr. Blackett said earlier, that power is now lost. So now the power is in the administrator's hands. It is not going to get solved if you're expecting a solution from sending them outside of your classroom. That's not going to happen ever.
I'm curious, when you were principal, what was your expectation of the teacher if they sent a student to your office or if they had a referral or a write-up? What was your expectation of them in that scenario?
Elementary is so different than middle.
Yes, it is. That's
And so I remember the first time a teacher brought a student to me and I think she wanted me to just fuss that student. I'm not sure.
Get the paddle, you mean? Get the paddle out? Yeah.
I mean, let them have it in front of them so they could go,
told you so. Yeah.
So I had the child. I had some things I was working on. I said, okay, just let him sit right there. Thank you. She's like, well, what? I said, no, you can go. You can go. Because she just wanted to stay in there. So I let them sit in there. And they sat in there for probably 15, 20 minutes. And then they just sat there. And then all of a sudden I start seeing some tears coming out, this and that and whatever else. I said, okay. And, and then we had the conversation we had. I said, love you, but I do not want you back in here. We got to figure out what's going on. Because I do not want you in here. I'll come see you in your class all day long. We'll play basketball at recess.
right.
But you're not coming back in this chair.
What would you say to teachers, and maybe this is teachers listening, or maybe they've seen this happen. I've definitely seen it as visiting different schools. Teachers kind of using the administrator almost as a threat. Like, if you don't stop doing this, I'm going to have to call Dr. Black up here, and he's going to have to. What would you say to teachers who find themselves, and I'm sure everyone has been there at some point, where things are happening, you're up to your wits' end, and you're like, this is going to get them here. And obviously that's not going to be effective. That's not going to get you anywhere. But that loss of power, what would you say to teachers who maybe find themselves either overwhelmed in this season or things like that?
What are some alternatives?
What are some alternatives instead of picking up the phone or saying, if you guys don't stop, I'm going to have to get Dr. Black, or you come around the corner in the hallway and they're like, I told you Dr. Black was what? Like, that is not going to ever fix the solution of the students and kind of creating that environment. But what would you say to teachers as an alternative for that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, my wife never said, because she stayed at home for 5 years, you wait till your dad.
Wait till your dad.
Right.
Exactly.
Same thing.
I was trying to think if I ever said that.
Powerful.
Yeah, I was trying to think about it, but I don't think I've ever said that either to Maverick. I don't think that I have.
I mean, I have said, don't let your mama see that on the floor. You better get that before she sees it. I've said that. That's
Same premise there. So then Wade saying that, and apparently, I mean, it's different, obviously.
Maverick's like, oh, daddy's not clean. Mom's clean.
Or like, Wade just gave his power of cleaning and gave it to Hope. He's like,
I did.
You
I
handed
love
it
the
over.
honesty, though. That's growth.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's right. And I would say also, I mean, administrators, I tried to get into my office early, and then I tried to stay out as much as I could. I wanted to be in and about, and I feel like that took care of a lot of the problems. There were some classrooms I need to be in a whole lot more than others, where there's just stepping in. If you walk with you can tell this, and y'all probably know this too. When you walk around a school and you walk into a classroom and it kind of stops and everybody looks at the door, you know they're not used to people coming in that classroom.
Right.
Yeah.
No administrator comes in their classroom on a regular basis. But if you can walk in and walk in the back and the teacher just keeps on going, just business as usual, then you know that administrator or somebody, an instructional co-assistant, whoever, somebody is always in those classrooms.
And that was one thing
that's part of it.
That was consistent
there.
Yeah.
That was one thing that was a change for me, having been at Pendleton before you came. And then you came to the school, and prior to, we had formal evaluations, but really it wasn't, so that took a little bit of getting used to, because that's,
It did.
When you first stepped in, it was like, hi, Dr. Black, hi, you need something? What do you need? Like, just getting nervous. But then every morning I saw
you would expect it.
Yeah.
Right there in the doorway.
If you didn't pop your head in, I was like,
where? Oh, something must be going
what's
on.
going on? Like, so then it became
Maybe you had a tummy ache that day or something.
It became abnormal for you not to be there. So it became something that, I just expected, which was a comfort level. That to me is so much more support than saying, I support you. So by supporting you, I'm gonna stay out of your room. No, you seeing what was happening, you seeing every single teacher, I think was just pivotal.
And you get a pulse on what's happening
in the school-wide expectation.
Just by saying good morning.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what you did. And it wasn't it was a comforting feeling more than was it.
As Hope said, at first you're kind of like,
because it's never
nervous.
Yeah, did I do something? Something
You're nervous, but then after it becomes comfortable, that's what you want to be.
And when those formal observations did happen, it was more
whatever.
Oh, let me know. Let me know. Like
about this. Yeah. I know where we are. And that not only, I would say for administrators, is not only about, but I knew there were about 4 or 5 kids I needed to see every morning. Not as well. Hold on. They needed to see me.
They need to see you.
Yeah.
And if I got to a point where I could walk behind them, now I know it's probably not, I won't suggest this, but I could walk up and I could sit in and I could talk to somebody and I could put my hand on their shoulder and they quit flinching. And we could sit and we could talk about what's going on, about, all right, what are you on task here? What's going on here? And if I could put my hand right here on their shoulder as we sat here and talked, and they were, okay, I'm all right with that, And so I needed to see those kids too, which helped.
And I also think that put power back on us as teachers and educators, because I'm just reflecting on this, because before that, during planning periods or whatnot, we're all in our rooms. But I remember when I had a planning period or other teachers, we were walking around the school. Like we were seeing, because other kids and other grade levels would identify or want to see us. And it was kind of the same thing. And so it was modeled and didn't even realize it was being modeled. And I continued to do that even after. So it was really neat.
Yeah. So I think that, when it comes to, again, the topic of principal's office, too soon, too late, I think it's a matter of there really should be thought going into sending a child to the principal's office. Not just a last resort emotional response because I just can't take it anymore, right? Sometimes we have to swallow that we have to sacrifice, right, as the adult in the room to say, let me just really think about why I'm sending this child. And if I'm going to send this child, what is going to be my action? Because to me, I can't just send a child to a principal's office without, when they return, how am I going to do something different? Because if I don't do something different, they're not going to do something different because both of those work hand in hand. So I think it's really about not just using it as go to Dr. Black's office, and then you find every day this is happening. We have to create, what system does that child need? Even if it's a new system, a different system than everybody else, what procedures are they needing every single day from me to be? The last place I wanted a kid to be was out of my classroom.
Right.
That was and it wasn't even so much from a power, like I've lost the power. I needed to teach them. My job is to teach. If they're not sitting in my room, I can't do my job. I'm not able to teach them. And so I think it's really, we have to be so intentional about reflection of our practices, reflection as the leader of that classroom to know that my actions cause an equal and opposite reaction. So I'm not just going to send them somewhere and hope for better days. I've got to have a solution for when they return, because this problem is going to continue to occur if there's not a solution in place. And I think that's such a big piece. And that's hard to do as a teacher because sometimes you're so tired and you're frustrated and you're like, I didn't even think of parenting. Sometimes I'm like, go see your daddy. Just go see your daddy, because I just can't. But again, that's, we're not perfect, but we can try to be better at it.
And I think also really sitting down as a classroom teacher, number one, but then also as a school, even more powerful, if there's this is what I'm calling administration for. If it's unsafe for the child or unsafe for others, obviously that's where I need support to either get the other students in a safe space, get the student who's unsafe in a safe space. That's where I'm going to need additional support. And what is going to be a compliance not doing your work, that is not something you're going to call an administrator for, although many will.
Right.
That is something that needs to be handled internally if you want to see growth in that area. Now, if you want to turn over that power, like we started the conversation with, but really identifying what am I handling in my classroom, school-wide, what is set by my leadership, and if that's not in existence, maybe having those conversations with your leaders of what qualifies as I need to call the front office for this, or even buddy classes, which I know a lot of students will say, go to the teacher next door, things like same situation there of kind of turning over that power, but really identifying what does this look like and what are my next steps, as hard as it might be, it might get on your nerves, it might be frustrating. That's when you're going to see the biggest results with students, because by the end of that year, I promise you're going to set the expectations. It's going to be a long journey to get there, but you're going to see growth within that student if you're consistent with those.
What about if your first move is, and this is something I've done a lot too, if your first move isn't to send them to the principal's office, you call the principal into your room. And it's not even from the perspective, I'm going to call Dr. Black in here. It's, hey, I'm really having trouble with XYZ, whoever the student is. Could you just pop into my classroom, see what you notice, see what you observe? Maybe we can implement.
Co-teach in the moment for that.
Yeah, it's being proactive versus reactive. And so I think that too, again, if we are the professional, part of assuming our power and our autonomy in that space is to bring in someone else with another set of eyes. Because sometimes we might be, struggling, and you might see it a completely different way, and you might say, hey, just try this and see what happens. And if that doesn't work, call me back in. I'll watch again. I'll see what I notice. And so I think that's where that teamwork comes into play for solution-oriented outcomes versus just sending them to your office.
But it kind of goes back to what you were saying too. It may not be the principal. It may be someone else in your building that,
Yeah, and I think that's where, as a leader, again, something you were so good at is, man, I just might not have strategies for that. Let's call in whoever else is in the building.
Somewhere in your building, you have somebody who's good at that.
Yeah.
You do, and it may be somebody on a different grade level that has planning during a certain time when you're having issues. Hey, can you come? Will you help me?
Yeah.
And I think teachers, for the most part, really want to help. I think they do like help.
Oh yeah.
They're fellow teachers. And so I think that happens, or whether it's your instructional coach who is really an outstanding teacher who could do that, or maybe an assistant principal, or maybe there's somebody in that building that could really help you on that. See, I like that, where you call people in.
Yeah.
And I would say this, and I know this is hard to do, but don't ever give up what you want most for what you want now.
That is good.
Okay? Because that's what some people do. And we do this a lot of things. Hey, I want to be healthy, but I'd rather eat this bag of potato chips right now, okay? But don't give up what you want most. The most I want thing is, I think about, and we used to have this, and I got this at the end, people start writing down on the last day of school, what do you want your classrooms to look like?
Oh,
Okay, on the last day. We may not be there on day 1, may not be there on day 45, I don't know. But by the end of the year, how do we want us to work as a family? How do we want us to do this? If somebody makes a mistake, how do we walk it? And so that's what I want most.
yeah.
But if it's just send them out, well, then I'm gonna keep having that problem. That makes it now. It takes care of it now, but that's not what I want most. Right.
Were we still doing, or did we do the light bulbs when you were at PES, where we would be able to go into other teachers' classrooms?
Yes, I think that was part of. I think did Sherry?
I think that's Sharon.
Yeah,
I remember. Yeah, Sherry Cashin.
And I thought that that is something that is missing. Is a small. It doesn't have to be hours of but limited opportunities to be able to go into other classrooms and just see what's happening.
Well, I believe in peer observations. And so I had that at the middle school, and I said, all right, how can we make this work here at an elementary school? Because I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And I think it was Sherry said, hey, because it's not going in and telling somebody what they're doing wrong. It's really going in, learning, and telling somebody, I like how you did this.
Yeah.
And I want to
I'm going to take that and I'm going to move it into my classroom.
Yeah.
Because you've got a lot of experts within your own building.
Yeah. Or, I mean, that's really great too, because it's, let's say, I know some, elementary teachers are self-contained, but if you're departmentalized, maybe Timothy, we always revert to Johnny. I feel like for poor Johnnies, they just get the identification. But I'm like,
Johnny.
Maybe Timothy's misbehaving in my classroom. Let me go watch him in Wade's classroom. Maybe he's not,
Sure.
or talking to the other teachers on your team and saying, hey, what are you noticing from, and if it's a team problem, then we can look at a system to follow him all day long. Or I can say, well, what does Wade do differently that he responds to differently that maybe I can try? But you'll never know that if you don't get out of your own little bubble, like your own little space.
And also there will be high flyers, obviously, that may require a behavior plan or things like that. That's not who we're talking about, the majority population of students, because that list, and if teachers say, well, I have all these students, that is not a realistic of your classroom at this time. There may be high behaviors in certain scenarios, but that's going to come down to management of the classroom to find out, okay, who actually needs more support. Maybe they need more interventions. Maybe they need a check-in or things like that. But really kind of taking the ownership is going to be the first start.
Yeah. No, I think kind of defining the power for the letting the power go. I think just as we've talked, I think that power is really just control what you can control in relationships and knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know. That's releasing that. Like, you are the professional. And I think teachers sometimes forget, oh no, I am a professional. Like, I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's never going to be perfect. That growth is going to be key to get there. There's never a perfect classroom, perfect management. What worked for kids this year, it may not work at all next year. You're going to have to kind of look at who you have and adapt that way.
So maybe we can shift to sending them out and calling people in as a, potential option versus just constantly.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
If you're a teacher now, let's flip it over to administrator. If you had it for administrator, and if you've got a student that's constantly coming up to you on the playground and saying, tattling or doing whatever else, there comes a point in time where you kind of go, oh, it's just so-and-so. There am I beer again.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you have this student come up, you go, oh, we got a problem here.
Right.
Same thing with administrators.
Yeah.
If you've got some teachers that are constantly sending people, you don't, okay, it's just so-and-so. I mean, you don't want to be dismissive, but if you've got other teachers that send, okay, this is a problem. Right? Okay, I need to deal with this now because I don't get this one got up out of their seat without permission.
Correct.
It's whatever it could be.
Well, that's great. Yes.
Yeah. So it does happen on that end. And so you don't want to be that person that they kind of dismiss because you're just, that's
another one.
It may not be anything.
Well, Dr. Black, thank you so much for joining us. Another great conversation here in the Flipside Couch. We will have you back for sure to continue these conversations in another future episode. But if you are watching, make sure you tune in next Monday for another brand new episode. Also, you can watch online on YouTube if you are just listening in your car and see the full in-studio video version. Also on YouTube, you can check out the extra scene that we promised in the beginning.
Oh.
Hope is about.
We're actually doing this.
She's
We're
not.
actually
So
doing
check
this.
it on YouTube. Hope crying in the fetal position, sobbing like buckets
I need to
of
see
tears
Dr. Black's
in
recollection-
Dr. Black's
recollection of
office.
this
So
work.
watch on YouTube for that. But until then, we will catch you on
The Flip Side.
Bye, guys.
The after show. Apparently, we're just going to go in on here. Let me humble myself a little bit. I need to know Dr. Black's recollection of this story.
This is the bonus feature. It's like after a movie, you say after the credits, this is what this is right now.
Yeah.
So Dr. Black, Hope crying in her office.
Moment in my career.
Exactly. He brought it up. So what do you remember about how old were you, Hope, at this time?
I don't even know. I think I was in first grade, so it had to be within the first
year there.
It must have been my third or fourth year of teaching.
My second.
Third or fourth.
You weren't looping.
No, I wasn't looping yet. I was still in first, so it had to be my third year because I looped with my second.
Maggie was in sixth grade.
Yeah.
And Maggie was in sixth.
Yeah, because she was still in the school. Yeah, so it must have been my second year of teaching.
Okay, second year of teaching. Dr. Black, how do you remember young Hope, blonde-haired, coming in for this scenario?
Well, you knew.
Add all the details, Dr. Black. Don't hold back. It's the bonus section. Yeah.
Be ugly about it because you can.
I can't be ugly about it.
I mean, you can spot talent. I mean, I was in coaching. I could spot talent, and I knew what is talent. And you coach sometimes people different ways.
Yeah.
There's some people that, my son, you had to holler at him, and that got him going. My daughter, you whisper in her ear, that gets her going.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it is with the kids, is with coaching and everything else. So everybody was a little bit different. But a lot of times we teach the way that we learn best. Hope was an athlete. She was a competitor. She was intense, and her classroom was intense.
Yep.
Okay. And so, and that was really good, especially for competitive boys. I mean, her boys been performing.
If I could have had an all-boy classroom, I would have crushed that.
I mean, it was about competition. It was about, let's go, and so, but there was a population that was a little bit quieter, not as competitive, not as whatever else. And that's just, I was like, okay, you're here. I don't know what I can do to get you here. I don't know if I can or not, but there's a group right here that I need you to be able to, how can you reach this group?
So you called her into your office for this?
Yeah, this was.
I don't know. If your room. I think it was in her room. I think it was in her room. I think
I feel like you rarely had conversations.
It was in your
office.
I didn't like doing it in my office, but I felt like
very
it was
formal and stuffy. Yeah, for sure.
I think it was in your room.
So you went?
Okay. It's, now if there were some times we might have to meet if something I had to
document or
it was a serious issue, and I'd have to do that often, but sometimes I would. But I tried to do it on their territory.
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah, it was in there.
It could have been
more comfortable because it's already uncomfortable as it is.
Yep.
And also, I'm a guy and she's a girl, and there's that.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm older and she's younger.
Yes.
And there could be a lot of issues in the background, so you want to make us feel comfortable. And that was about my that's all I remember from the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the tears started right after that. Right.
No, I mean that was actually pretty spot on from. Like what the situation was is he had come in to watch I think it may have been an evaluation.
Because he popped into classrooms all the time.
Like,
so this was not like a formal thing. Right. It was just, he was trying to get you the best. And I love your shoes, by the way. Sorry. Just trying to get you to the next level.
No, I think this is so big. And I talk about it a lot with teachers. And it was truly transformational for me. It was not easy, but that's the best transformations. It was a difficult road to get to this transformation.
This is a perfectionist.
Correct.
He didn't want to hear she wasn't perfect.
That's right. And that's what I was about to say. He was coming in. I knew you were coming in for an observation. I remember because I was like, or maybe I didn't, but after the lesson, I was like, oh, I crushed that. I crushed that lesson.
She amped it up 10 notches just for him.
Well, I mean, also like, I was very confident in my teacher, which is not a bad thing. Like I was getting results just like a coach. If you're getting results, you're a good coach, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, I bet he's going to tell me this about this, about this. And I was really I'm not competitive with anybody but myself. So like, I'm going to be my worst critic, but also I feel like you also are your biggest hype man too, because if you're getting results. So anyways, I sat down to meet with you. It may have been in my room. And you told me so many great things because you were never just going to dive into but you said, if
I remember
Gibson were in your classroom.
Should I get tissues? Are you okay? Have you? Oh, okay.
Gibson's my son.
If Gibson were in your classroom, he would thrive. If Maggie were in your classroom, she would wilt. It's exactly what he was talking about. Different students, different kids you're going to coach in different ways. I had tunnel vision.
You just focused on the wilt.
I was teaching exactly like I would thrive, exactly how I would have thrived. Thrived is that the right word? As a student, as a learner.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that hit me so hard.
I think it was a Friday because
It was a Friday because I had to go home over the
live with it
weekend.
all weekend.
Because the
It was a
thought,
Friday news dump.
Yeah.
That was great. I'm out of here. You deal with it. I'm out.
It was the thought of how much I love teaching and the fact that I would cause a student to wilt. But here's where it was transformational. I think this is so good for teachers to hear too. Nobody's perfect. And immediately I went into how I cried because it was just gut wrenching for me. But also it was does he not see how much I put into this classroom? Does he not? I went into that mentality.
That was Friday night.
She typed her resignation letter that night. I heard it.
Exactly. No, I never would have. But I went into offense mode because a lot of times teaching becomes very personal for all of us because we invest so much into other people. And I was like, I can't believe that he did. It was honestly a God thing that it was the weekend that happened. And I really believe this was an intentional step in me meeting my potential. Or I'm not even there yet. Like you said, we're always learning, but growing. God knew that I needed to hear that on a Friday, sit with it, be defensive, and then go into the weekend. Because when I got to Saturday, and I cried all weekend. I did. I cried all weekend.
Yeah, so I'll
This is actually in our book, The Wild Card, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, it is. And with this, I remember you said, like, you were so upset, and I say a lot. I'm trying to stop saying that. But I remember you talking it through, and then
because I always
day by day, you got better and better. And then on Sunday, you brought it up, but you weren't super emotional or really angry or upset about it anymore. You're just like, why?
Yeah.
Why? And I said, well, why don't you ask him to just come another time during the day?
Well,
and you did.
Before that, he did. But before that, you never came to us and told us what we were doing wrong without a possible solution. And your solution to me was, the way that you deliver, you're so intense, and sometimes you wear that on your face. And sometimes you're not even smiling when you teach. And I was like, well, I'm the happiest person in the world. I don't understand. I love teaching so much. I literally set up a way to record a lesson, and I watched it. And he was right.
It was the old school VHS, probably on a tripod.
Get out of here.
Warren Wheeler
sure it was a BlackBerry
on his shoulder. Yeah.
But I did. And over the weekend, I was like, it wasn't that I came to, oh, he's right. It was okay.
You did do that.
I respect him so much.
I remember she did do that.
There could very well be some truth to what he's saying because he's a different set. And I had to own that. And that was hard for me to swallow.
Sure. He's a high school guy. He just doesn't understand elementary.
I said all the things about you.
What wilt means?
Yeah,
Verb.
I felt very strongly about you for those few minutes.
Then it really was, but you were very reflective in it. Like it wasn't you were wrong.
I tend to be for the first day you were wrong, and I could not believe how dare you. But then I set up the recorder,
I didn't listen to any of that.
And I watched a lesson, and he was so right. And my face did not show the love that I had for kids and the love that I had for teaching. But here's the thing. If you had just been like a lot of the leaders that I had in the past, great job. That was a pivotal moment for me in what growth looks like as an educator. And I feel like I've always leaned back on that throughout many moments of struggle or this isn't going well for me. It was almost like what would Dr. Black say from the standpoint. And I feel like that's why, I speak so highly of you now because you actually took the time to provide growth. You actually took the time to tell us where we could be better. And I think a lot of leaders are scared to do that.
It's hard that's not a deep conversation.
And you would never hurt anybody's feelings. Like that would never be your intention. But I am so grateful that somebody cared about me enough to make me better. And I think that that's where I've always went back to that moment of, am I being reflective? Am I really seeing this and so I have recorded so many lessons in my room because of that. And that's why I tell teachers, I'm like, teachers, this is going to be the last thing you want to do. It will be the most powerful growth you ever have. Record a lesson.
Yeah. Turn the sound on.
But I would have never done that. Then you came back. I invited you back you were in the classrooms all the time. So that wasn't, but you came back. And then two, you were the kind of coach that's it. That was it.
You got it.
You got it. And that would have never happened. And who knows where my classroom management would have gone or where if you had not stopped and said, you can be better. And I think that I'm so grateful for that. And it took a while to get there. And it took some pain and some suffering and sacrifice and feel all the feelings. I felt all the feelings. But I think that was one of the moments that I will remember forever, hands down, in my career. So thank you for that.
Well, what a great moment. I was really hoping for like a full-on tantrum, like throwing like on a desk, like throwing a chair or something.
Oh,
but it's fine.
We're
It's fine.
collegiate athletes.
We'll
You get
take
real
it.
thick skin in college.
Exactly.
You're a collegiate athlete.
We'll take the flower hope wilting. We'll take it. We'll take the wilt. But thank you both for sharing that.
I think next time he comes, we're going to have an after show with Wade removing all the desks.
Yeah,
Wade took out the
yes, that's a good start.
one.
That'll be the
That
next
is a good one.
Man, I'm telling you, Dr. Black had your back even when you didn't know. You could feel it.
We've learned so much.
Made it work. He made it work. But
much
if you
growth.
tuned on it this long, thank you for staying tuned to the after hours bonus section of this episode. We'll see you next Monday on another episode of Flipside. Bye,
Bye, guys.